part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
What is good, Breakers? That sound means it's time for Cavs in the Break NBA podcast from the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, he's the NBA writer for hoopswire.com. He's our Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, it's great to see you, man.
It's great to see you. It's great to talk to you guys. And I really like being introduced first because I've never won the Junkyard Dog Award. So at least I get something.
Sam, we have a full squad here tonight. Also here with us, the man, the myth, the legend. You all know him as JIA. My first podcast partner, Jeremy Anakron. Jeremy, it's always great to be on the mic with you, brother.
Jay, what's up, Chase? Let's not forget also the man who introduced you to the legend Sam Amico.
Yes, that is also true. That is also true. Thank you for that.
Thanks to a surprise 40th birthday party. Look what spawned from that, me going to a surprise 40th birthday party for a mutual friend of Sam's.
All right, and now we have saved the very best for last. He is over sports at Fox 8. He's the host of Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm going to say my good dear friend, John Sabol. John, Thank you for joining us tonight. No one even knows the sacrifice you're making to be here tonight. So thank you so much, John.
Hey, man, I appreciate the nice, kind intro. And you know what? It's amazing and fun to be with you four. We have not recorded a pod, all four of us, probably since our preseason pod. Our schedules have not matched up, but it's good to finally be back.
I felt
like the Fab Four together.
There was like a week 4 or 5, maybe we had one or two where we're able to get together. But a full squad here for our Cavs on the Break trade deadline preview pod. This is it. This is the pod that we're going to cover all of the scenarios. What could, should, would, will not happen. We got you covered right here. There'll be names that come up. There'll be names that are traded, and we are here for it. I will say this will be our only pod before the trade deadline. We're going to come at you as we need with Emergency Reaction Podcast as the trade deadline approaches, if necessary. But right now, this is the only one we have scheduled until after the trade deadline. Hey, shouts to Zach for checking out this pod. One of our loyal listeners, Zach. Thank you so much, man. So, hey, let's talk about the Cavs at the trade deadline. I want to do this segment we did last year to kind of maybe offer some dreams of what we hope the Cavs could do. It's a segment I call I Dream of Beachy, named after my good friend Wade Beachy. He's a Cavs fan. So Sam, we'll start with you. Your dream scenario for Cavs here at the trade deadline, 2023. What is your dream scenario for the Cavs right here?
I would think that, it's pretty obvious. You want a 3-and-D type of guy. And there aren't a ton of those available, but you could probably get some 3-point shooters. And I don't think that I don't want to see the Cavs shake things up to the point where they're all of a sudden rebuilding it, or not rebuilding, but kind of, adjusting. I talked to one general manager who said, I think that the Cavs are going to stand pat. Mm-hmm. Now, this is just something he said, and he said, and I say that because they made their huge trade at the start of the year. They went out, they got a 3-time All-Star at the start of the year. And then he said, but don't hold me to it because Kobe Altman is wild. And he meant that as a compliment. And he said, so
he's a wizard.
Every time I think that they're going to stand pat, he goes out and does something. So I think that they're really going to make a move for some additional perimeter shooting. It's an obvious need. Dream scenario, you'd have to concoct a lot of things, and I'm sure Jeremy and John have some good ones. I think if they let's just say they're going to make a low-level trade. Okay, they're not going to blow it up. They're not going to make a huge deal. I think, and I've written this before, you could do it for Chetty and Dylan Windler, Doug McDermott, who's not going to move the needle very much as far as the splash, but neither did Ricky Rubio. I think that they could go out and get that guy who's a veteran player, who's played in big games, could help you in the playoffs, and would be the 3-point shooter you need. That now, granted, that's all he does really is shoot threes. But I think with the way that this team's constructed, he or someone like him would be a nice piece.
Dougie McBuckets. What do you guys think about that? Doug McDermott.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, we've discussed this in previous pods. I think that would be a nice piece. San Antonio doesn't technically make a lot of deals at the deadline. They're not very active, but that could be a move that they would probably entertain to unload Doug McDermott, depending on who they would want in return. He's a guy that I think can hit your three. I mean, the defensive wise, you're going to probably drop back a little bit there with him, but at low cost. What are you giving up for him? Are you giving him up a Windler?
The Spurs are looking for second round picks.
Okay.
For McDermott and Josh Richardson. I mean, they're not going to trade them together.
Sure.
But it seems like they're willing to trade both guys for little more than second round picks.
So that bodes well for the Cavs because they're a second round pick heavy right now. And it's a low risk option if you just unload your second round picks for a guy like McDermott who can give you a more consistent shot on the three, but also, someone that's currently, I believe, and I'm looking it up as we talk here, under contract for not that much money. A couple episodes ago, Sam and I broke down some of the contracts of some of these guys, and things have changed in terms of Cavs interest levels. But I remember, and I got it up here, McDermott's owed next year $13.7 million, and then he's a free agent at the end of next year. So would be essentially a 1-year rental for a guy who, by the time his deal's up, will be 32 or 33. That would be a deal, I think, in a steal if the Cavs could get him for maybe 2 future second round picks.
Jeremy, does Doug get your McDermott moving, man? How you feeling about Doug McDermott?
So Doug McDermott's fine. I mean, he's fine. He can shoot. We do definitely need to shoot him. I'm going to stick with the guy I've been talking about for months and months and months.
That's Alec
Burks.
Yep.
Alec Burks shooting 45% from three. Now, I guess the negative is he is in the last year of the deal. So I'm not sure Detroit, their thirst to move him because he's only making $10 million. He has a club option for next year, but he's having an excellent year. He's lengthy. He's got some length. He can play probably a little better defense than Dougie McDermott. He can do a few other things that McDermott can't do, like rebound. I just think he's such a good fit for what they need right now. What do they need? They need 3-point shooting, and they need someone who can defend the wing. And I just think that Alec Burks, 31 years old, not super old. I just think he's such a good fit. Now, I haven't heard anything about him in weeks. I think Sam had something a couple weeks ago about him. I haven't heard anyone talking about him. And I guess he's not really a name that would move the needle for too many teams. So maybe that's why you haven't heard much about him. But I just think he's such a good fit if the Cavs can find a way to work something out.
He's shooting the ball. Sorry, John. He's shooting better from three this year than he ever has. So, yeah.
45% from three.
Yeah. Sam, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say that he's having a career year in terms of shooting the three and really in his production as well. I mean, you got to wonder this too, Sam. Have you heard anything about Detroit looking to unload certain guys because they're maybe in tank mode to get maybe Victor Wembanyama? I know Bogdanovich was quoted that I read on Hoops Wire saying that he was told, or he thinks the Pistons value him as a core of their franchise.
Yes.
I'm not on that camp of getting him either because of his age and his money. But if they think he is a core of their franchise, would that be more willing for them to part with Alec Burks?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that they'd be willing. Look, this is the time of year when the Pistons, I think that they're open to moving Bogdanovich, but they're just never going to admit it. And I can tell you this, Kobe Altman's going to try to steal him. That's kind of, if somebody said, who is the Cavs target at the trade deadline, that would be the guy. That's who they think come in, move the needle. He will immediately start at your small forward spot. All of a sudden, you're really challenging, even more so in the East, at least on paper. But all we're hearing right now is Detroit's going to hold on to him, which I think they probably will, because they have a really high price at the moment. But
Sam, I'm gonna cut that out and post that on socials, man. I'm cutting that out and posting that. That seemed like a nice little hit there, man. It's a nice little number.
Yeah, no, I think there's no doubt that's who the Cavs want. But it's just not right now, the way Detroit is asking and what they're asking for, they're trying to drive up the price through the media. So and
yeah,
probably successfully so.
but Sam, the one drawback for that type of move is his salary and his age. And we've talked about this before. I mean, he's going to be 34 next season. He's going to be 35, and he's not a free agent until he's 36. And at that point, he's making 20 and 19 million those final 2 years of the deal. That's something
costly, but
yeah.
I mean, you have money to give the Pistons back that would be valuable to them, namely, Kevin Love. So, if they're as determined as say that they want to, tank and get in the Wembanyama lottery, there's no better way to do it than trade for Kevin Love and or whatever and get some picks out of it. But I don't think it's impossible, and that's not to say the Pistons are like going to take Kevin Love for Bogdanovich. That'd be too obvious that they're tanking. But I'm just saying that it's we didn't think the Cavs were going to get Donovan Mitchell either, So I wouldn't be surprised if they are to pull off some sort of trade that nobody sees coming.
Let me make a couple more points if I can on Alec Burks real quick. I've actually been debating this, what you guys are saying right now. Like, what is the upside for Detroit to trade Burks besides tanking? That's it. There's nothing else. They're not going to get a giant haul. They might get a second rounder. I know second rounders are more valuable now in the NBA than they used to be. And another point on Alex Burks is he actually had a career renaissance about 5 years ago. He's shot over 40% from three the last 5 years. Yes, this year is his best by a lot. He's shooting 45%. But the last 5 seasons, he's been 41.6, 42, 40.4, now 45. So he, for whatever reason, the latter part of his career, he's become a much better three-point shooter. So as much as I would love the Cavs to get him, and I think he makes a ton of sense, it is tough to find because of the fact that his deal essentially ends at the end of this year. It's outside of maybe a second-round pick and maybe tanking. There's not a lot of incentive for the Pistons to trade Alec Burks. Well, it feels like there is incentive to trade Bogdanovich if they do want to move on from that giant salary at a guy who's, mid-30s.
It's a good point, Sabol. So Sam's brought up Dougie McDermott's. GIA brought up Alec Burks. Here we are talking about Bogdanovich. Sabol, what's your Idris Beachy trade target here for the Cavs?
Yeah, I've really thought that the McDermott deal, if you only give up a couple second round picks for the salary situation, is ideal. Alec Burks, as we've discussed, would be solid too. I don't think you'd give up much there. I'm not sold on Bogdanovich. I know Dan Gilbert and the Cavs don't have issues with spending money, but they'll be approaching the, luxury tax even after you get rid of a Love or Levert, either in a trade or let them walk. So I guess that's a moot point. To me, his age is still a very, very issue with me. And if you tried to flip him in a year or two, you're not going to get the same return. I don't think he's that big of a missing piece. I still think what they'll probably do, and I agree with Sam, I think if they'd make a move, it could be something smaller. I think a guy like a Malik Beasley type could very well be a small piece that you wouldn't have to give up much. I mean, he's going to give you a little bit more defense than Doug McDermott, almost identical numbers. But beyond that, I mean, Sam, we talked a few weeks ago about Luke Kennard out in LA. I don't think that's kind of a really good option. We mentioned Tim Hardaway's name's been mentioned out there. I think he's a poor man's Levert, if I'm being honest. He doesn't move the needle. He's kind of the same player. I don't think that fits really well. There could be a surprise here or there, but I do think the three guys that they would target would be a McDermott, Burks, and I'm not really going to put and maybe Bogdanovich in there, but I think a low level guy to keep your eye on too could be like a Malik Beasley.
Why on earth is Josh Richardson not a desired commodity? Why? Can someone answer that? Because I hear all these names, and a player that I would want on my bench in the playoffs? Josh Richardson. Who, if we're in foul trouble, we put in Doug McDermott's, he's not going to play any legitimate, important playoff minutes. I wouldn't want to put him in there. Who I wouldn't mind putting in there? Josh Richardson. Bogdanovich, I think, can matter in the playoff. But do we need 3 point? I don't think we need perimeter D. I think our defense is pretty good. I think Okoro has proven to be an elite perimeter defender. Now the second unit does need help, but why are we so quick to pass on Josh Richardson over like McDermott over Richardson? I don't get that. Can someone help me? Because my dream is Josh Richardson.
Well,
Josh Richardson.
No, go ahead,
okay,
Sam. Go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I mean, he's not a bad option. You wouldn't have to give up much to get him. And he's shooting 36% on threes, which isn't terrible. He's not getting a whole lot of opportunity there in San Antonio, though he's about playing like 24 minutes a game. So about half the game, which is what the Cavs would want. I don't have a big problem with Josh Richardson other than and the one thing I do like about him, Chase, is he's a pretty decent underrated facilitator. When he has the ball, he keeps it moving. But again, there's to me, what has he done lately? He hasn't had much of an opportunity, but I wouldn't have a problem with him. No, and he might only cost you 2 second-round picks, right?
He's going to go to a contender and really contribute, and we're going to say, man, he could have been a Cleveland Cavalier if we just would have put
the Lakers. Yeah, the Lakers had been trying to get him for a little bit too. So yeah, there's something to that.
We're going to hear again from Josh Richardson. I guarantee it. So that's my dream.
Just not Josh Hart. Didn't you say Josh Hart or something in our text?
Actually, group? Sam, I was just going to ask you about that. There had been some rumblings and rumors about Josh Hart, which I laughed at when I saw that.
No, Cavs don't want him. They don't want him, and I don't think Cavs fans will want him either. If you think Karis LeVert can be maddening, then watch Josh Hart. He's 10 times more inconsistent than Karis LeVert. 10 times.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say either one of 4 of us can probably contribute more to the Cavs than Josh Hart.
Josh Hart, I mean, he's fine for what he is, but you just better be ready to. I mean, if I see fans complaining about Chetty and Karis LeVert, and then they turn around and say they want Josh Hart, and I'm like, he's the same guy, probably only worse.
Yeah, he's definitely worse. Here's a guy that I actually talked about, Chase, my dream guy for this team, who would fit perfectly, I think, which I think is now unrealistic because this team that he's on is having a surprise year, is Harrison Barnes. I know the Cavs liked him.
I brought him up earlier, too. I like Harrison Barnes.
I know the Cavs liked him earlier in the year when they didn't think the Kings would not be sustainable. And then look what they're at right now here at end of January, early February. Currently,
I think the Kings are buyers, man. I think they're buyers.
They're buyers, so there's no reason to give him up. But that was a guy that they were looking at.
I love Harris. I love his game. He's scrappy. He gets the big rebounds. He can hit the corner 3. You're right. He's just what the Cavs need. He'd fit perfectly. He can defend. He's rangy, lengthy. He's just not gonna. He's not. I don't foresee them, making a move in that manner.
They got
and his money matches. And his money matches LeVert's too, which would be an even trade. But now the Kings are good, so they're not going to make that move.
No, I think
Mike
isn't
Brown
Careless
Coach of the Year?
Yeah,
isn't Careless LeVert the perfect nickname for him? Because Careless is kind of how it feels when he's dribbling the ball sometimes. Careless LeVert. I love it.
All right, so a couple more things in this I Dream of Beachy section. What do you think the Cavs will actually do? That was our kind of dream. What could happen? What do you think the Cavs will actually do? Are they going to stay put? Is it just a bunch of talk for nothing, Sam? You kind of maybe lean towards they're going to stay put.
I don't want to say for nothing because, again, you never know what Kobe Altman's going to do, and he always seems to do something that nobody even knew was on the radar. I think there's probably an 80% chance that they stay put. They're probably not going to find a deal they like, a player that they like, to make a move. I think if they do make a move, it may be something that's just not anything that gets the fans excited. I think that though the odds are greatly in the favor of that because, you have a lot of guys who are accustomed to playing here. people talk about Karis LeVert and moving Karis LeVert, but Karis LeVert, love him or hate him or like his game or not, he's playing 31 minutes a game. So if you get rid of him, you better find somebody who's filling that role and those minutes. So, and I think if they do trade Karis LeVert, they're just going to end up getting somebody else who's very hot and cold. And why did you make the trade then? So I would say when they're looking at all their options, they may just be saying, let's see how good we can get within right now. And guess what? The off season's almost, it's going to be around the corner here soon.
Yeah.
And we'll do some more stuff then. But I just think right now it might be tough. I could see them with the way things are going. However, talk to the Hornets and use Kevin Love's contract and say, you guys are obviously looking to move people, which the Hornets are having like a massive fire sale. So you have Kevin Love's contract. That's all they want. They want these big expiring contracts. So 3 pick. So I think if there's a deal to come out of nowhere or a big deal that kind of moves the needle, it might come whether it's Kelly Oubre or Gordon Hayward, or I don't think they'd have an interest in Rozier, as good of a player as he is, but I think that's something to keep an eye out for is them moving Kevin Love's deal for a team that's just unloading like Charlotte.
I don't feel like Kobe would risk any culture in the locker room or team chemistry for reach of any player of any type. I feel like he knows the team's pretty tight and they're gelling. I think he sees the value in that. Is that pretty accurate, Sam?
Without question. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to trade probably for a knucklehead, but I think that.
Well, he's not trading for John Sabol, that's for sure. That's the case.
No, Sabol's out.
Yeah, no knucklehead policy.
But no, I think that the obviously with the culture being strong, that's not something you want to mess with. But if you think you could go out and get a guy who's not going to impact that and still move the needle, then yeah, you're going to do it.
So, Sam, let me ask you this. A lot of chatter about expiring contracts right now. Kevin Love has absolutely no trade value except for his contract. Agreed?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. It's been all quiet right now with him, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 10 days away, next Thursday, right? A lot can change.
DNP tonight against the Heat, by the way.
Right. Yeah. And he was questionable entering the game tonight anyways. So next Thursday is the deadline. You and I have discussed, Sam, in the past about how the Cavs wouldn't mind just keeping him too. But if you're just going to just trade him just for an expiring deal and not get anything in return, what's the point of even trading him? Because he's going to walk.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what they're looking at. Can you trade him for one of these pieces on Charlotte that's available?
Yeah.
Whether it's Hayward or but I mean, those are deals that you would really have to look at too. You don't want to take on a huge contract just to move Kevin Love. But I think that he is slowly becoming their biggest trade chip. That doesn't mean he's going to be traded, but I think he's slowly becoming that because he's probably, guys, to be honest, has 3 months left in Cleveland anyway. After the trade deadline and the end of the season, I'm going to say it's safe to assume that he's not going to be back next season. So that said, if you can move him now and get a piece that really moves the needle to one of these teams that wants his contract and has it come off the books at the end of the year, that's a pretty valuable trade chip because there aren't as many sellers this year. We thought the Pacers were going to be sellers. They're not. We thought maybe the Oklahoma City Thunder would be sellers at this time of year. They're not. So there aren't as many. But the Hornets definitely are, and the Toronto Raptors potentially are, and the Chicago Bulls potentially are too. So that, I mean, going back to that question, John, yeah, they would absolutely move Kevin Love, and I think that this might be the opportune time to do it.
Who would have thought a little fractured thumb that it would affect Kevin Love's shooting as bad as it has could affect and impact his future? Because there was some talk that they could bring him back at the end of the year on a vet minimum. And who knows? That could still happen even if they deal him.
Yeah, that could still happen, but I think that's a long shot.
Right. You mentioned this one, and Sam, I wanted to get your thoughts, but Jeremy and Chase, Gordon Hayward, does that move the needle for you? Because that's a guy making a lot of money. I feel like that's kind of a wash at that point.
I don't, because I think he produces. Maybe it's not as much as he did, but I think it's a viable piece. I don't know. It would move it a little. I don't think it would move it to as much as the other names that we I don't think it would move as much as Bogdanovich or Josh Richardson.
Yeah.
But I think it's better than some of the other options. Jay, what do you think?
I don't know. Are we sure it's better than, like, say, Karras and Seti getting those minutes? I'm not 100% sure it's a better. And I thought Sam made a really good point earlier, probably a point that was good enough to win the Junkyard Dog Award today. That if you do get rid, if you do get rid of Karis LeVert, you have to have somebody to fill those minutes. As annoying as he can be at times, he still plays a big role on this team, as a secondary scorer, secondary ball handler. So if you do move him, you better have a plan for his minutes. That's a great point. And to answer the original question here, Chase, I don't think they make a move. I think they end up standing pat and then look to see where this team gets them this year, and then look to make some moves in the offseason to really give it a go next year. If you remember before this season, Kobe Altman was very careful not to place any expectations on this team. He wouldn't even place playoffs as an expectation, if you remember.
Yep.
I think he was rightfully saw. You had to, readily, and rightfully so, wanted to see how this team would do this year and be patient and see how it gelled and see how quickly it came together and see where they needed to tweak around the edges and what they needed to do. So I think if they don't see I don't think they're going to make a move that's going to hamstring them in the future. I don't. I think if they do, it will be like an Alec Burks, something like that can provide some help immediately, but it's not going to hamstring them going forward. So a long-winded answer there, no, I don't think they make a move. I think they end up standing pat.
And I don't think they make a move either. I'm in that camp. And I think all three of us and fans have really giving Karis LeVert a hard time, and rightfully so at times. The one thing that cannot be understated is his attitude, his selfless play, and you go back to what he does in the box score, his minutes. And one thing that's not talked about is how drastic of a jump his three-point shooting has gotten this year, even with a big score in Donovan Mitchell. So you lose a good character guy, a guy who gets along with everyone. We mentioned this before. You got to make sure you're bringing someone in that matches and checks off all those boxes, which I think it's hard to find. Mm-hmm. Who knows if that's McDermott, if that's Burks, whoever. That just makes Kobe Altman's job a little harder, which is why I agree with Sam and Jeremy that it's probably more likely that they stand pat. Of course, you never know. And Jeremy, you bring up a good point regarding what Kobe Altman said. Chase and Sam, us three, we were at Media Day when he said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he said something along the lines is, I'm not putting a ceiling on this team, so playoffs, you wouldn't even mention that either, but they need to get in the playoffs. If they're out of the playoff play-in game and they're a 4 or 5 seed, which it's looking like it would be, then that would be, in his eyes, probably somewhat of a successful season with knowing what they have.
Here's why you all are wrong. And here's why they're going to make a move. One, because they didn't make the playoffs last year, and they want to make sure they make it this year. And two, you can't waste healthy seasons with your primetime star players. They're not guaranteed to be in this position next year. They're not guaranteed anything in the future. And whenever you are sitting where we're at now, and you have a healthy Mobley, a healthy Garland, a healthy Mitchell, a healthy Allen, why would you not trade a package deal for Bogdanovich or trade second round picks for any of these players that could help right now? Why would you not? Why would you?
Okay, I'll answer that. Why? And I get what you're saying, Chase, and I agree with you.
Thank you.
But why? Okay, so no, I do. I agree. You only have this season. Yeah. I've always said that. You only have this year. But would like getting Josh Richardson in here, are you gonna beat the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers?
I think he
No.
gives you a better chance than Chetty Osman. He
That
gives you a
is
better
true.
chance than.
Okay.
But you're assuming a team would take Chetty for a Josh Richardson.
I don't know what we have to trade for Josh Richardson. I just know that I'd rather give
I
my
bet they would.
minutes to Josh
They probably
Richardson
would.
than Chetty Osman. I'm just saying, why would you not do all you can to help the team this year? Why? If you have a healthy squad and you underachieved, let's be honest, underachieved, even though we underachieved and are overachieving last year, which as much as that doesn't make sense, it does. Like, why would you not trade a piece for something to improve the team? Like, I don't know. I don't think we have the luxury of standing pat when everyone's healthy. It is just, we are lucky that someone hasn't rolled an ankle, like really jacked up a knee anytime they've driven the lane, like a big man going up for a putback. Like, I'm thankful every game we don't have a major injury. And why would we not? And so I think Kobe is just going to get a little bit, he's just, I think something's going to happen. I don't know if he's
Chase. I think there's nuance to it, though. Like you're saying, you can't just, because he doesn't want to get rid of that flexibility they have over the next couple of years. He's not going to just take someone and say, "All right, F it, let's go." Give me
flexibility
someone
is
who's
the
going to
word for what we have in the next couple of years, Jay. We don't have a first round pick for the next like 2 or 3 years.
Right, but you still are going to have big contracts coming off the books that are going to give you chances to do some things that maybe you weren't be able to do if you took on another $20 million contract that's going to be on the books for 2 more years. So I just think they're not going to just say, "All right, let's go all in right now." When, like Sam said, is this, is getting a marginal player who helps a little bit around the edges going to get you by Boston and Milwaukee? I don't think so. So I think they know that. So I think that's why I think they end up riding out what they have, seeing how they compete, hoping the guys play really hard, go to that next step to get a first round playoff, and then reevaluate as the season ends. That's my opinion.
So to Chase, to your point, I get what you're saying, but I also think you have to have a calculated decision of what your outlook is. I mean, you do have an immediate playoff / championship window for the next 3 years or so with Donovan Mitchell. So you don't want to necessarily panic and really try to make a move right now when you really don't have that many assets to really get a guy that's going to make that big of an impact that's going to be better than Karis LeVert. Are you going to find a guy that's going to be better than Karis LeVert right now that's going to make a big impact?
Yes.
Well, all those guys we just mentioned are better, but they're not significantly better. That's going to get you over the hump, in my opinion. With that being said,
I've never seen Karis LeVert make a corner 3 this season.
He hit one tonight.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't see it.
Bounced around the rim.
I've never seen one. I didn't say he hasn't. I said I've never seen one. I turned the TV on and deep lane hit a corner 3.
Set on the rim and dropped in.
I don't know. Why even try to? I don't know. I think there's going to be a move, and I think it's probably going to be someone we're going to scratch our heads with, or someone we're going to be excited about. I don't know, but I'm glad we're here talking about it. There's no one else.
I think it seems to be easier said than done, but I also think it's a little tougher when you think about the assets that they have that they can part with. When you just think of a Windler or a Chetty or a LeVert and let's say 2 second-round picks, that's pretty much what you're dealing. And Kevin Love, I guess that's only thing you're really dealing with. And does it make more sense to try to get a guy now or wait to the offseason and let LeVert and Love's contract come off the books and then make another potential free agent signing? Here's 2 things you need to think about real quick. One, the Cavs still have a first-round pick next year. They didn't trade away their 2024 pick. They still have that. Isn't that right, Sam?
Trade it now.
Isn't that right?
They have to keep. You can't trade.
At least draft a player.
Right. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, Chase, you mentioned that they don't have future first round picks. They do. They have one next year. They just don't have one this year.
All right.
And the 2025 was sent to Utah. So they do have one in next year's draft. Second thing that we have not talked about, the Cavs have the second easiest remaining schedule of this season. Think about that. So I know it doesn't make that big of a difference in terms of trying to make a deal or not, but in terms of playoff seeding, they're not going to get that much farther, but that's got to go into their thinking a little bit, Sam, don't you think? They're holding tight right now at the 5th seed. Are they really going to jump Brooklyn? No, and it doesn't matter if they do or not because they're going to play them anyways. But the toughest times in terms of toughest opponents is vastly behind them for the most part.
Yeah, I think that I don't know that will factor into their thinking other than let's ride it out, see what we've got, see how this group finishes. I mean, like last year, first of all, to go to Chase's point, it would be weird, Chase, to see a trade deadline come and go without Kobe doing something because he tends to do stuff when he has an opportunity. That said, I went back and looked, and other than the James Harden Ben Simmons trade last year at the trade deadline, there really wasn't a notable deal other than Porzingis getting traded to the Wizards from the Mavericks. And I mean that hasn't really done much for the Wizards. So you can honestly say that there's about one deal that really moves the needle for anybody on average at the deadline. And has the Ben Simmons James Harden trade really moved the needle? I don't know. Both of those teams seem about the same as they were when they had those guys healthy. So I do think it would be weird to see Kobe Altman not make a deal because that's just who he is. He's a guy who likes trade. But I also know that a lot of times the trade deadline has a lot of buzz and a little action that's noteworthy.
But it makes for great podcast conversation, Sam.
And
Hoops Wire articles.
Podcast conversation, website hits.
Yeah, baby.
The deadline seems like it's in the last few years, Sam, has really been more bark than bite,
Yes, for sure.
All right, but before the break, anything in the buyout market, any potential Cavs work in the buyout market after the trade deadline?
Yeah, that's not something I've heard a lot about other than, Rashawn Holmes from the Kings, those kind of guys. I could go back and look that up. There was one intriguing name in the Eastern Conference, and I can't remember who it was, but certainly there's that, that type of deal that the Cavs could do. The problem there is, you got to make sure you have the salary space to do it. And that player, those players tend to team up with Durant or LeBron or, A-level stars. But there's always a possibility, absolutely, that you could sign an available free agent. There's a ton of guys out there. I've heard people email me and text me and say, well, you have that list on the website. Why aren't they reading it and signing DeMarcus Cousins? He's got to be better than Robin Lopez. So I mean, I think that possibility always exists that you could bring in a veteran after the trade deadline. Sure.
Yeah.
Can I pose a question before we go to the break, Chase?
Yes.
Sam, and I want all three of you to give me your opinion. Who is more likely to get traded from the Cavs, Cedi Osman or Karis LeVert? Because Sam, according to you on Hoops Wire, there's been quite a buzz on Cedi lately.
I would say Cedi. I think the Cavs are more willing to trade him for the same reason that I just mentioned, that Karis is playing 31 minutes a game, and that they do have that's not going to make them say, we can't trade him because he plays 31 minutes a game. But I think that does have some value to them.
Jeremy,
Chase, Jeremy,
I think I agree with that, and I know there has been some buzz recently about him. I mean, I love Cedi. He's just so hot and cold, man. He's got to be one of the streakiest players in the NBA. Like, what, he goes 7 for 7 from three, two nights ago. He's just such a streaky dude. And obviously the potential's there. I think he annoys Coach Bickerstaff as well at times. So yeah, I'm gonna say with the fact that Karis does play a huge role on this team currently that would be tough to fill, I'd say Cedi is although I don't think either of them is getting traded, I think he's the more likely to be traded.
Yeah, I think Karis is probably more valued across the league, and so I think he has like better chance of actually playing and actually mattering for a team, providing solid minutes. I don't think Cedi has any value outside of Cleveland, to be honest. And I've been hard on Cedi in this podcast, but I think Karis probably has a higher value. And if we're looking to get a Bogdanovich or anything like that, he would probably be included in that trade.
Yeah, if you're making a splash, you're moving Levert, and Levert definitely would bring back, without question, more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick break, hear from our great friends at DraftKings, and then we're going to have a lot of fun this day in Cavs history and talk about this game that we just lost tonight against the Heat. The great vibe, great atmosphere. The Cavs bench was standing up most of the game. It was a great game. We ended up losing. We'll talk about it after the break right here. Cavs on the Break, NBA podcast.
The wait is over. DrafKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is officially live in Ohio. And now you can legally bet on all your favorite sports anytime and anywhere right here in the great state of Ohio with DraftKings. And for a limited time, new customers who sign up with the promo code P3Cavs will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings says the best features including same-game parlays, player props, and more with fast and easy payouts right at your fingertips. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. New customers can use promo code P3Cavs to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, use the promo code P3Cavs. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 years or older, physically present in the state of Ohio. Valid one offer per first-time depositors who have not already redeemed $200 in free bets via pre-launch offer. Minimum $5 deposit and wager, $200 issued as bonus bets. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/OH for terms.
All right, we are back. Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. We got a full squad here for you. Sam Amico, John Sabol, JIA in the house on the court for you. We spent a good 30, 40 minutes talking about the trade deadline. I dream of Beachy. Right as we logged on, John and I were first in the room, and we both had this glimmer, and we said, hey, I said, John, I have it this day in Cavs history. And John said, no way, I have it this day in Cavs history. And we haven't revealed them yet, but I'm 99.9% certain they are the same this day in Cavs history. So, John, how do you want to do this, man?
I think it might be better if we played it.
Because I'm stepping on your toes right now. This is all your field. I'm encroaching. You don't.
No, man. I'm honored and excited that I think you picked the same one that I did.
Yeah. You don't want to have Sam and Jay guess?
Sure.
All right, Jeremy, do you have any idea what happened this day in Cavs history? Sam?
Man, I do not know.
This day in Cavs history, January 31st. That's all I got to guess, like throughout the whole
transaction. Like, there's no transaction. There's no front office. There's no
trade
coaching thing.
Kevin Love had 34 points in the first quarter or something against the Blazers.
No.
I think I gotta guess. I don't remember if it's this date or not though.
What is it?
The Cavs beat the Jazz on a 3-pointer.
No.
So
all right.
The yes, Virginia. There is a Santa Claus call from.
The greatest. Yeah, the greatest Joe Tate call of all time.
All right, Johnny. Play the clip.
I'm gonna play it here.
Wait. Let's give one more clue. It involves someone on the network. They're involved in this day in Cavs history.
Yes,
someone on the network.
Guy, flight 23.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did somebody beat up Kenny Rhoda?
Oh no, Roadman, the drive-by. We love you, Roadman. Listen to him. All right, play it.
Roadman actually was at this game, believe it or not, with his son.
I was at this game.
You were there too?
I was at this game. I witnessed this in person.
I was watching this game, I think, with my dad on the couch. Because I tweeted this at Kenny too, and he said he was at the game with his son, and his son had never seen Jordan play because he was young, and wanted him to see. I just gave it away.
Here we go.
Jones the trigger. Jordan for the win. And the buzzer. He's done it again in the city of Cleveland.
January 31st, 2002, Cavs versus Wizards.
Oh, Cavs Wizards.
Michael Jordan buzzer beater. It was a thing of beauty. Everyone in the whole building, everyone in the gun knew who was getting it. Everyone knew that Jordan was getting it. Gave the fist bump. Rip Hamilton had the face mask, did the fist bump as well. And the place went nuts. No one was sad. Everyone was pumped. They got to see a Michael Jordan buzzer beater in the house. It was incredible.
What's funny about it is you're right. Everyone like cheered for it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was bummed the Cavs lost, but I was happy Jordan did it, even though Jordan crushed our lives younger when we were younger.
No one cared.
But I thought it was interesting. As you see the video, Rip Hamilton's putting up the fist just like MJ, like he had something to do with it.
I think he passed it in.
And where Jordan had the shot was where he had the shot in '89, right in front of the free throw line. So
everyone in the building knew who was getting that ball. Like, as a basketball player, why do you not like triple team? Like, how could you let that happen? I don't know. No one cared. It was awesome. This day in Cavs history. It was incredible.
What's funny though is for years Jordan said Cleveland was the only city he got booed in for years. So this is kind of funny that they cheered him. He actually made a point to say that. I heard in multiple interviews.
Dude, I'm sure
Cleveland is the only city that he got booed in at the end of his career.
Dude, I'm sure when he was in Chicago, that was the case. I mean, at this point, he had retired, second time come back, and was already aged. Yeah. He played. I have the box score. He's incredible. I think he played. Hold on. Yeah, Jordan played 40 minutes that game.
He played all 82 games that season too. That second season,
he had 26 points that game.
Yeah. How old was he that year?
39, I think. 39 or 40, somewhere in there.
Incredible.
How old is LeBron right now?
37,
38, I think.
No, he just turned 38.
Yeah,
no, he just turned 30. No, he just turned 38 because he's the same age as my brother. I'll be 42. He is so let's take this moment here to appreciate just what an incredible level LeBron James is playing at right now. That's Jordan at the end where everyone's laughing and saying he's washed. LeBron's only a year different. It's still playing at a level that is, almost MVP worthy.
Yeah, I think the difference is with Jordan, he took 3 years off and did nothing but smoke cigars, drink beer, and eat cheeseburgers.
And LeBron probably takes care of himself better than any athlete
ever
in the history of sports.
I mean, LeBron, it really helps. I mean, if you look even at like John Stockton playing until 42, Robert Parrish playing until 44, those guys never left, and I think that helps a lot. And I think it really hurt Jordan to leave for 3 years, especially when it was very clear he was not. He was leading the party lifestyle for about 2.5 of those.
Well, think about it this way too. He had a cup of coffee with baseball, right? And when he came back, you saw The Last Dance, how he had to change his regimen, his body, to get out of baseball in the NBA shape. And that was kind of like when the weightlifting in the NBA started to come on, get bigger and, really become popular because, guys back in the day, if you talk to like Mark Price and Brad Daugherty and those guys, there was no out weightlifting or off season training in the NBA, even in the late 80s and 90s for the most part. That changed in the late 90s. But LeBron has invested so much money, millions and millions of dollars into his diet and his training regimen, that when people talk about the GOAT conversation, I hate when they say, oh, well, LeBron has an edge just because of the sports science. And, you got to hold that against him versus Jordan. I mean, that's just so silly to me, that's just, I think a cop out. But, it is crazy to see what LeBron is doing at his age. And I've said this before, guys, when there's so many LeBron haters out there that when he retires and then he comes out with his own documentary like Jordan did, the pitch of the angst is going to flip and change. You're going to see people start to appreciate LeBron later more than they do now.
If it's anything like the Dream Team doc, it's going to be almost insufferable. That doc.
And remember, think about this. Jordan issued The Last Dance to start getting it organized and produced the day of the Cavs championship parade.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you think the four of us will be on the LeBron doc?
Sam definitely will be.
I do.
Damn well should be.
Sam should be. Yeah, for sure. Red guy might. I mean, heck, we might have a whole
Red guy's voice will be
on the LeBron doc.
It will. Yeah, Ray Guy's voice will definitely be on there. Who was it, Sam? There was a book, and I think maybe it was a Terry Pluto book that talked about how LeBron did not take icing and stuff seriously his first few years in the league, and someone got a hold of him maybe when he was 22, 23, and it kind of a trainer, and it changed his whole outlook on how he took care of himself. And lucky for him, he was smart enough to listen when he was that young about, look, if you want to play a long time, you need to start taking these things seriously. Right. I can't for the life of me remember, but I read it in somebody's book.
This is supposed to be a conversation about Michael Jordan. I don't know how we got started talking about LeBron. But it's crazy that
it's probably in a Pluto book.
That this week.
Yeah, I think it was in the Pluto book. That's where I read it.
LeBron is going to have the all-time scoring title and move into 5th all-time in assists. That's happening like after we record, before we record again. That's legendary. I mean, that doesn't happen ever.
Yeah.
Like this is
a big deal. It's absolutely insane, guys. It's absolutely
he moved ahead didn't he move into 4th place in assists tonight?
Is that tonight? I haven't.
Yeah, I think he did tonight.
Gone back and checked.
They played the Knicks tonight.
He did.
Yeah,
he moved into 4th place. He passed Steve Nash.
Incredible stuff that we are witnessing. We're all witnesses, right?
Well, I mean, Chase. I just think people always complain that the Lakers are on TV all the time. The Lakers are always on. I'm like, no, the Lakers aren't. LeBron is, and there's a difference. Mm-hmm. And I know that I love to watch those games. Yeah. I'm like, if LeBron were playing for the Orlando Magic would be on TV all the time.
Facts.
So I mean, he's just that big of a draw. Look, I wonder what the NBA is going to do when he does retire. It's like who's going to be the big draw?
Sam,
Victor Wembanyama.
They had that issue with Jordan when he retired. No one was there to take that torch. It took a couple years before Kobe became that guy. Yeah. And that wasn't right away. That was probably 3 years afterwards. Yes. Some could say it was Iverson. There was a massive dip in the NBA TV ratings after Jordan retired in 98.
Well, it's supposed to be Grant Hill.
99.
It's supposed to be Grant Hill.
It was supposed to be.
Injuries derailed Grant Hill.
Yeah.
That 99, 2000, 2001, even though those were years, let's see, the Lakers and did the Spurs win it there in 99? Yep.
Yeah.
Some weird, odd NBA basketball time where the popularity of the sport dropped because there was not a face of the league.
Yeah.
I think Luka, maybe, if he doesn't eat himself out of the league. I mean, remember, Luka's only 21 years old. Feels like he's older, so I think
Luka's already won the younger crowd anyway.
Right.
Hey, could you imagine?
Keep his weight under control. I could see him getting in, some knee. He's heavy for how he plays.
Luka in Cleveland would be unbelievable.
Because he's got the backing. Every time Luka comes to town, I've been at a few of these games. There's like 150 to 200 people with the flag and the whole thing. Yeah. And Luka goes up into the crowd to talk to him afterwards and stuff. It's really a cool scene.
There's a big Slovenian population in Cleveland, man.
Yeah.
All right. So that was this day in Cavs history.
That turned into a LeBron James love fest.
Hey, we're going to take another break. What? I know. Crazy. Whenever we're done with that break, we'll talk about the Heat week 16 slate for the Cavs, and then we'll wrap things up. Mega Pod here, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tyrus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tyvis, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of The Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it. Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Reg Eye and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
We are back. Cavs on the break. A 3-break podcast. Mega pod. I don't even know the last time we've had 3 breaks on a podcast. We just can't stop talking. Sam's already half asleep. Sam, stay with us, buddy. We're almost here in the home stretch. Fourth quarter. You know, we got that dog. We got the dog. Gosh, the dog.
The junkyard dog.
The junkyard dog award. You can do it. Hey, it was a great game tonight. Although the Cavs lost against the Heat. They drop one in Cleveland to a playoff caliber team. Sam, walk us through the game, man. What did you see? Any major concerns, or is that just a loss you have in the regular season you learned from and hope to learn from for the playoffs?
Yeah, that's kind of it's not a huge deal. The Heat are a veteran team. They're so well coached. They've been around. That group has been together a little bit now. I just think, first of all, the Cavs eventually have to start making some free throws and doing a better job at the line. They just have not been consistently good there, and it's cost them. Probably cost them against the Heat. There's also, they went on long scoring droughts because they didn't take care of the ball. And Miami will do that to you. Miami likes to grind it out and play that gritty game, and the Cavs, just weren't able to overcome it. That said, they were right there. They had their shot. Mitchell had a shot. I thought it was going in. It was right on line, just a little bit short. He was off balance at the end.
Dean Wade was wide open for like the entire possession.
Who was?
Dean Wade. If you look at the replay, like his defender.
Yeah. That's okay. Leave him open.
Yeah. 2 guys could shoot that shot on this team.
Right. Yeah. So they just didn't play great, but at the end, and that's okay. Miami's a very good team that's gotten it together lately, and you just learn from it and move on, really.
Sabol, what are your thoughts on the game?
Sam pretty much nailed it. The Cavs did not shoot the ball well. I mean, you talk about the free throws. They were ice cold from beyond the arc, 11 for 40. I mean, just couldn't really buy a bucket. Just overall poor shooting display versus what we saw 2 nights ago when Shetty went off in his career night. Granted, he is very streaky, like Jeremy mentioned before. But I mean, listen, the other thing too is the Cavs had just way too many costly turnovers in spots where they are very uncharacteristic in that aspect of things. I mean, those guys usually take care of the ball better. I thought the minute usage of some of those guys tonight was odd. Chetty only got 7 minutes. I'm not saying that's a deal breaker. I just thought that was interesting. And to Sam's point earlier, Karis LeVert's getting a lot more minutes. 29 tonight. Just overall, I mean, you just didn't get any big scoring out of anybody. Evan Mobley led the way with 19 points, and Okoro again in the starting lineup, still not producing at the clip that we want. Miami, this was, Jared Allen and Karis LeVert said at shoot around this morning that they were eyeing this game. This team was really looking forward to this Miami Heat game, mainly because this was this game that you could look at as a playoff team and as a playoff opponent. This was like a playoff preview in a way. And, they know how well coached they are, and they've got the studs. Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are finally kind of getting back into their own. So the Cavs just didn't have it. I mean, what do you chalk it up to? Just poor shooting and a bad home loss? Sure, go for it. But they need to learn from it, because if they don't, they could, find themselves with 29 games left, hopefully they don't continue to drop some of these close games, because I'm not saying time's running out, but you also don't want to get in a spot where you're dropping so far down into the standings. You're only 3.5 games up in the Knicks at 7 seed, where all of a sudden you're talking playoff or play-in tournament games. A lot of ball left, and with an easy schedule remaining the rest of the year, bodes well for them. But you need to see them play a little bit better against these perennial playoff teams.
Jeremy, you concerned with the loss?
A little bit. I thought JB made a good point in the post-game press conference when he said, I don't know if you noticed, but the Heat's zone gave the Cavs some issues. And he said the Cavs did not attack that zone at all. I think in the fourth quarter at one point, the Cavs were 5 of 11 from the free throw line. They didn't go to the hoop enough. They settled for bad threes too much, especially when they were cold. At one point, Darius was 1 for 6 for 3, and Donovan was 1 for 7 from 3. They should have been more aggressive against that zone. JB said they play that zone so well that you're actually seeing ghosts, that you think there's nothing open when there is, and you have to be aggressive and attack it. When the Cavs play Miami, you can always bet the over on Bam on points and rebounds, because he gives us problems. Athletic, big men, big-bodied big men give the Cavs problems. It's just what it is. So I'm a little concerned about. I don't like the matchup with them at all, because, like they said, they similar style to us on offense. They might be a little better at it. They grind you to dust, as Sam said. Just I am a little concerned. I don't think it's just a loss. I think the Heat do a similar thing that we do, but do it maybe a little better.
I think the Cavs really wanted this game, like you said, and I think
I do.
The vibe in the arena seemed real. The Cavs and the bench was engaged, and I think it was a blow to kind of drop this one. I really do. And looking ahead to the slate this week, national TV against the Grizz Thursday, Groundhog Day, TNT. Woo, at the Rock, 7:30. That's big. That's a big game. And then we traveled to Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indiana for the Pacers on Sunday. But that February 2nd game against the Grizz, that's big time, prime time. Prime time, big time.
You're going to get another good test right there. Yeah. And then you've got a couple, I don't want to say cupcakes right there with Indiana. Always plays them tough, but Washington in Detroit right before the deadline.
Indiana's 1-9 in their last 10.
Yeah, but the Wizards have been great since the Hachimura trade. I think they're 3-0, and they've won like 6 or 7 in a row. So,
did you guys catch during the telecast? This is an amazing stat. The Miami Heat on their roster right now have 10 undrafted players.
I did catch that. That's incredible.
10. Yeah. 10 undrafted players. So it shows there's more than one way to build a roster, I guess.
Yeah. Shows there's hope for us.
It shows how great of a coach Spoelstra is, and how they
their scouting department too is insane.
And let me say this: there's no question that Spoelstra is 100% in control of that team. Did you see early in the game? Not early in the game, might have been early in the third quarter. We got a breakaway layup easy, and how mad all the players were that no one got back to stop that layup, and they immediately called a timeout. And Spoelstra got into Bam because he didn't drop back quick enough. He is the unquestioned leader of that team. That team buys into his system. It's different, right? In today's NBA, you got a guy that's a taskmaster like Spoelstra, and the players seem to respect him and like him.
It's a very old school approach, Jeremy. And where do you think he gets that from?
Riley.
Pat Riley. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Well, guys, this has been an old school podcast. We've turned the clock back.
We ground it out.
We did. What a time. A 3-break episode. That does it for this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to the Presley podcast and for making this possible. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. And hey, shouts to DrafKings Sportsbook. You guys been with us all winter, winter, only with us for a couple more weeks. So make sure to join our P3 Bets group. We have a ton of fun. And kind of see what's going on there, and you can kind of manage and see who wins the most bets during the week. It's a lot of fun. Make sure to check that out. DrafKings Sportsbook is finally here in Ohio. You can follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his works and writings at hoopswire.com. Follow Jeremy on Twitter at Jeremy in Akron. Follow John on Twitter at John_Sabol. Sam? John. Jeremy.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I think we all know who was awarded the Junkyard Dog Award tonight.
Today is the
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think it was Chase.
Sam
It's
Amico.
I can't.
Let's
I
go.
can't win the
Let's go.
Junkyard Dog Award. You know why? Because I campaigned for it. Had it just been,
There will be
given
no
to me,
investigation into your campaigning with us. Unlike the Academy Awards, you are awarded as fair and square. Sam, congratulations with your insight and your tireless trade deadline work leading up to the deadline. This is one of your busiest times of the year, Sam, right?
Yeah, by probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, you will not want to sit close to me because I probably don't have great hygiene those days. But yeah, it's the busiest time. It's the most 12-hour days here and there. But it's the time I love most, so it works out.
All right. Well, I love this time the most. It's so great to talk with you all. John, Jeremy, any final thoughts?
Yeah.
One last. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Go ahead, John. No, go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say the Cavs are just one game behind of last year's record through 53 games. Chew on that before you
don't make a move at the deadline
or go to work.
Yeah. Jay?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, ironically, I was going to say the opposite. I'm like, man, let's just hope that the Cavs come out and string together a couple wins against these teams they're supposed to beat so we don't see a repeat of what happened last year. I don't think we will, though. I think we will, we'll take care of business against these bad teams, and I think we'll end up in that 5.
All right. Well, Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.